On the 3rd of March 1983, the promising life of Peter Ivers came to an abrupt end. He was a beloved singer and songwriter, a visionary, and the enigmatic host of the television show New Wave Theatre. Around 2:30 p.m., his neighbor found him dead, bludgeoned by a hammer in his Skid Row apartment in Los Angeles. Peter was only 36 years old at the time. What followed this event was just absolute chaos, with the crime scene being contaminated and the local police's lazy effort to investigate. The musician's death remains a mystery. To this day, many people have attempted to investigate and figure out what exactly happened to Peter. Many theories have surfaced, but we still don't know what went down in his apartment on that unfortunate day. Was he killed by someone he knew? A burglary gone wrong? Today we'll talk about all the theories that have been brought up and what most likely happened to the highly regarded musician. Peter Ivers was born in Illinois on 20th of September 1946. His father, Jordan Rose, was a physician, while his mother, Merle Rose, was a housewife. Jordan got diagnosed with lung cancer when Peter was only 2 years old. In an effort to help him with his illness and recovery, the family moved out to Arizona. However, in 1949, when he was only 3 years old, his father passed away. As a result, Merle Rose remarried a Boston-based businessman, Paul Eisenstein, which led to them moving to Boston. He went on to study at the Roxbury Latin School and then attended Harvard University. Peter majored in classical languages there, but he decided to pursue a career in music instead. The first step he took towards starting his music career is by playing a harmonica for the band called Street Choir. Peter started his solo career in 1969 when he released his debut album, Night of the Blue Communion, with a record label company called Epic Records. He went on to release a second album with Epic as well. A song from that album briefly made its way into Billboard's Top 100 Singles chart. However, commercially, both his albums were a flop, which led to him being dropped by Epic Records. Following that, Peter worked on a few projects, scoring films for young directors, such as his former college classmate, Tim Hunter. By 1974, Peter had signed with Warner Brothers Records. He recorded 2 more albums with them. Unfortunately, just like his first 2 albums, these 2 albums also did not gain much success, as Peter's music was quite different from what was popular back in the 70s. His friend David Lynch once said that Peter was ahead of his time. Peter transformed the careers of many up-and-coming artists, such as David Lynch, Doug Kenny, and John Belushi. Film executive and Peter's long-term girlfriend, Lucy Fisher, stated, "He was such a touchstone for so many people in so many different walks of life." By the early 80s, Peter was approached by producer David Jove to host a television show called New Wave Theatre. Even though the show was edgy and different from what was usually shown back then, the expansion of the show to the audience all over the US led to many people's eyes on Peter, giving him some much-deserved recognition. During that time, Peter also decided to move locations and relocated to Skid Row in downtown LA. His main aim for moving there was to get into the art community. Lucy, however, was quite skeptical of him moving into a sketchy neighborhood. On the tragic day of March 3, 1983, Lucy's skepticism and worry would be justified. Around 2:30 p.m. on the same day, Peter's friend, Anne Ramus, was the first person to grow worried, as he was not answering any of her calls. She then asked one of Peter's neighbors to go check up on him. Since Peter never locked his doors, the neighbor walked straight in and found his body on his bed. It was discovered that Peter was attacked with a wooden hammer, which resulted in serious brain injury and multiple skull fractures, leading to his death. According to an Entertainment Weekly article, Lucy Fisher was unhappy with the police investigation as it was mishandled. She states that, "By the time I got to the loft, people were already milling around. They hadn't cordoned it off." Many of Peter's friends had come to his house when they heard about his death, as they did not believe that their friend had actually left the world. This resulted in a lot of people walking around the crime scene and contaminating it. Lucy Fisher told the LA Times about an incident that further showed the incompetence of the local police. She stated that when she reached Peter's apartment, she asked her friend Elizabeth Glazer to come to Peter's apartment. Elizabeth and her husband, Paul Michael Glazer, who was a well-known actor at the time, arrived at the scene. Lucy recalls an exchange where the police officer asks Paul, "What do we do?" To which he responds, "I'm an actor." This incident clearly showcased that the police did not know what to do next, botching the initial investigation, which is known to be the most crucial part to finding the culprit. Moreover, the lock on the door was said to be broken, even though the investigator, Hank Petrosky, stated that it was one of those locks, you just rattle it a few times and the door opens. However, Lucy is of the opinion that the door was unlocked. Petrosky claims that they found no fingerprints or the murder weapon, but there was one clue that could lead to the motive behind the attack, which was that Peter's stereo equipment was missing. Petrosky says there were some wires still there, obvious something was missing. Could have been a thing to fake us out. "I've already killed him for this. I'm going to steal his stereo. They'll think it's some burglar." Furthermore, in the following weeks after the musician's death, investigators questioned his friends and multiple people around him but did not find any evidence of them being linked to his brutal murder. This resulted in there being no suspect in the case, and the case being closed. Lucy Fisher also hired a private investigator to look into Peter's case. However, the investigator did not find anything credible. She tells Entertainment Weekly, "I did continue on for close to a year. After a year, I decided I wasn't going to open that door anymore." In 2006, on the insistence of author Josh Frank, the writer of Peter's biography, the case was reopened. Now retired LAPD detective Cliff Shepard was working the cold case unit at the time, and he was the one assigned to investigate the case again. However, that was also a dead end, as there was no new evidence that was discovered. Now that we've established the timeline of events that led to the musician's death, let's discuss the theories surrounding the mystery. Was it someone Peter knew? Was it a staged burglary? Maybe just an unfortunate incident in a bad neighborhood? The involvement of producer David Jove. Many of Peter's friends told author Josh Frank that they think David Jove is involved in the attack on Peter. Their main reason to believe that was Jove's erratic personality and the power dynamic between Peter and him. While Peter was described as an easygoing and artistic person, Jove was said to be controlling and loose-tempered. It is alleged that the night before his death, Peter told Jove that he was quitting the show, something Jove did not want to or like to hear at the time. Drummer and Peter's close friend, Russell Buddy Helm, told Entertainment Weekly, "David Jove was obsessive and quite the cocaine abuser. Peter was really kind of sick of doing David's scene. David was connected with some serious punkers, and some of them were violent, and David himself could be violent. Moreover, Jove was known to not only have a bad temper, but he also had a sketchy background. In 1967, he assisted the police in busting a drug raid, which led to the arrest of Rolling Stone stars Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. Jove was the one who supplied the drugs that they were caught with. However, when the arrests took place, Jove was nowhere to be found. This incident highlights that Jove was swimming in some dangerous waters. Peter's friends had begun to notice the producer's temper increasing at the musician, and their relationship turning sour as Jove didn't want Peter to leave the show because of his recent successes. It is also alleged that when the crime scene was contaminated and everyone had entered Peter's house, Jove was also present at his house during that time and allegedly took the bloody sheets that Peter laid on from the crime scene. However, many prominent members of the LA punk community and those who knew Jove personally vouched for him and maintained his innocence. Following Jove's death in 2004, the possibility of going down this rabbit hole to bring justice to Peter also came to a dead end. A burglary gone wrong. As previously mentioned, The lock to Peter's door was broken despite being flimsy and easy to open. It was broken, meaning there is a possibility of forced entry. Moreover, as Petrosky mentioned, there was missing stereo equipment that might have been stolen. Even Lucy Fisher believes that there is a high possibility that someone who was just passing by and heard music coming from inside the apartment could have been the perpetrator. She has stated many times that Peter just did not know how to lock the door, and it seems like she believes the likelihood of a burglary gone wrong is high. Moreover, while investigating the case, Petrosky found out that a burglar who was active in the area during that time had fallen to his death. Consequently, he suspected that there is a possibility the burglar was involved in Peter's death. However, the investigator stated, but we couldn't prove it, and the case eventually kind of died. After looking at the key details in the case and analyzing the theories, the most probable scenario that led to the death of Peter Ivers is a burglary gone wrong. The main reason for this is the neighborhood Peter lived in. It is well known that Skid Row is one of the most dangerous areas in LA. There is a possibility that a burglar, maybe even the one Petrosky suspected, found out that a musician lives in a loft nearby and wanted to score some valuable items to sell, and the flimsy lock probably helped his plans. However, what he did not know is that he would find Peter in his home, which might have led to a confrontation and the death of Peter Ivers. Even Detective Shepard, who investigated the case in 2006, told Entertainment Weekly they came up with a suspect who was a rooftop burglar who fell off a roof as being the most likely suspect. I know there are a lot of people that think there are other people involved, but it doesn't appear that way. You would like to have better answers, but I don't think there ever will be. I think this is it. Even though this evidence is circumstantial, it seems to be the most likely thing to have occurred, as the theory of the involvement of David Jove did not bring about substantial evidence. It is more speculative and based on the personal opinions of people who have lost a very dear friend. With that being said, the mishandling of the investigation, the contaminated crime scene, and the lack of evidence indicate that we may never truly know what happened to the cherished musician. What are your opinions on this? Do you think our analysis is right? Let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.